All right. Well, if everybody is ready, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your schedules to talk with us. This is a really cool and important conversation, and I'm really excited for it. My name's Emily, as you can probably tell by my screen name, and I'm co-hosting this with Gabby. So I think to kick things off, if I could have you all go around and just introduce yourselves and kind of briefly tell us like where you work and what you do and a bit about your organization, that'd be great. So whoever wants to go first.
I'll go. Matt Godfrey. I'm a business resiliency counselor with the Small Business and Technology Development Center, North Carolina. We are a business extension service of the university system, and we're partially funded by the Small Business Administration and the NC University system. So we work with small to mid-sized businesses with the primary goal of helping them grow. We provide multiple resources, coaching, counseling services in all areas of business, just focus on helping our businesses grow and prosper, and especially, be resilient in this past year. I'm also the lead facilitator of the Waypoint Accelerator program, which is an outdoor industry specific business accelerator program.
Yes, I'm next, and I'm Sadrah Schadel. I'm co-founder and chief creative officer at No Evil Foods. Our mission is to inspire positive impacts on people, planet, and animals through the creation of plant-based foods. We've always been a brand that I think has a really authentic voice and a clear social mission. And a lot of that is just to do good in the world. My role here is to kind of lead the innovation department. So new product development, what types of products we're creating, what the flavor profiles are. The other piece of my role here is to make the the better choice the easy choice for consumers. So the marketing department and how we kind of control the overall brand and messaging for our company and drive the vision for how we can build a different and more diverse company that does business in a new or different way to create systemic change is kind of what I drive. So a lot of the culture for the company, what do we sound like? What do we look like? What are our benefits? How do we treat our team? And then how do we flow that out to make a bigger impact?
And hello, I'm Melissa Vega. I am a brand and social strategist at R&M. At R&M, we're a B Corp brand experience agency based in Raleigh. We focus on working with brands that positively impact our health, wellness, and social responsibility. We touch a lot of industries from healthcare, so think prescriptions, CROs, to additional growing brands and nonprofits. We like to position ourselves as an extension of our brand's creative and marketing teams. So we do everything to help from developing a brand's positioning, promise, and their identity to things like website design development, content management creation, and all things digital media or digital marketing. And I love the unique position I have in my role. So we have a trifecta when we manage and work with our brands. We have a creative lead, an executive lead, and a brand lead. As the brand lead, there's a lot of parts of the pie to my job, some slices larger than others, but they can range from heading up the marketing and the strategy. I side saddle with creative and I work with them super closely, ensure everything is aligned with our brands, their unique values, and their vision. One day I can be creating a social media strategy for, let's say, a local greeting card company. And then the next day I'm pulling together a direct mailer kit, working with vendors and creating a game so we can utilize and promote an adoption for one of our clients' tech integrations. So it's definitely fast paced. It's definitely super interesting and super fun. And we get to work with really awesome brands like we have here on this panel as well. And that's it.
Awesome. So for Melissa, how would you describe sustainable business and social entrepreneurship in basic terms?
I would say for both sustainable business and social entrepreneurship, it's really about how you use business. And whether, how do you create harmony between profitability and prioritizing our environment and prioritizing social responsibility. And one of the best ways to kind of put them together as a whole is, for example, being a B Corp and what it means to be a B Corp. And R&M, we've been a B Corp for about 6 years. B Corp is a global network of, I think, nearly 4,000 companies across 150 industries. And we all work together with that one unified goal, is balancing purpose and profit, and then using business as a force for good. So R&M, we're a nimble team of 12, local brand agency in Raleigh, but we stand alongside amazing companies I think all of us know here and potentially love, like Ben & Jerry's, Clean Canteen, Patagonia, Cotopaxi, Method, New Belgium, and like Larry's Coffee, for example. And really, it's how do we impact decisions on the business, our customers, and our world, balancing, prioritizing people, purpose, profit, and planet. So I think everyone here is aligned with that, whether we do so in business form or we do so as individuals. It's, how do we be aware of what's happening in our world, whether it's like tackling racism, addressing inequality, and then being held to the highest standard to share our environmental performance, being transparent on what we're doing, and also being held accountable. So really just positively impacting, very similar to what R&M does, positively impacting our health, well-being, and social responsibility. It's quite an assessment, an evaluation to become a B Corp. So it is a nice stamp of approval, but of course, that's not to say like, cool, we're B Corp and then that's it. It's really a tool to how do we continue to improve our agency? And then also how do we as consumers hold these companies accountable for what they're doing and what they're saying, and ensuring that they truly are using their business as a force for good.
That was so good, Melissa.
Oh gosh.
I'd add no evil foods to your list. Being a great B Corp.
Yeah, we are actually going through the process of B Corp certification right now. So I do know what a daunting undertaking that is, but it's also really, it's incredibly eye-opening because it provides such a wonderful framework for not only kind of benchmarking yourself and recognizing where your strengths are, what you're doing well already, but also where your big gaps are. And I love that all of it, it is time consuming and it's laborious and it's, it takes a lot of focus away from the day to day, but it's very easy to see that when you go through the process, you can tell that the steps that you're taking are the steps that are going to ensure that you are creating a better business for tomorrow. And I think that's like safeguarding our, it's protecting our position in the category, I think, for plant-based meats to be a company that has more and more purpose beyond just creating products. I think, through kind of inherently through the types of products that we make, being plant-based, we're already a healthier product, we're already a more sustainable product, but how can we go one step further to really be a responsible company in so many other ways beyond just creating something? And I think just to get back to the original question for us, I think one of the ways that we think about being a sustainable business and social entrepreneurship is just about rewriting the rules and thinking about different ways to do business that are not the status quo. We've been doing business the same way for a long time, and it's time to think about how we do that differently. How can we use business as a tool to serve people, to serve the people that are working, creating the product, to serve the people who are out in the fields growing the product, the people that are transporting it from point A to point B. How can we make that more effective and beneficial to everybody who's involved? And so, we're just at the beginning, but it's definitely a priority for us.
If I could add one thing to what both of you guys said, and Sadrah, what you said about we're at the beginning. It's a continuum, and it's something you're always striving for. The term sustainability it could be mixed messages because it's hard to be truly sustainable. And Melissa, you mentioned Patagonia. They 20 years ago they changed some wording in their mission statement from "do no harm" to "do no unnecessary harm" because they realized even making organic, growing organic cotton and making organic clothing, it's still a tremendous use of water, right? And tremendous use of petrol, let's say. So it's always something we're striving for, and being transparent with your consumers, with yourself, with your company, with your staff, your vendors of the efforts you're trying to make in that regard. And then to take it one step further, many consumers now, they want to see that you're being a sustainable company and doing the right things that align with their core values. But they also want you to help make them become a better person. So instead of just going through the motions, or truly being sustainable the best you can and being a B Corp, those are all great things. But it can fall flat if you're not truly taking the extra step to help them become better people and align with your core values.
I love that. And I'll just quickly add to what it makes me think about too is that responsibility. Brands in general, companies, organizations, and as individuals too, but they have a unique responsibility because they have the ability to and responsibility to influence, to communicate, to connect. And what they say can make a huge impact and difference to how we as people and customers consume, and what we absorb and what we think is right. So I love that you mentioned Patagonia and them realizing, oof, we have this responsibility to be transparent. We know that we can't completely not completely be super sustainable, but here's what we can do to combat some of the things that we are doing. So I love that.
Yeah, and businesses have for too long taken a pass on that responsibility piece. They say, oh, the nonprofit organizations have it, these other people, they'll take care of it over there, but it is all of our responsibility. And like because of the influence and the power that business have, and in many cases the financial ability that a lot of companies have, not all, certainly not all, but the bigger ones, they need to be leading the charge. It is all of our responsibility.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing. You're making me and Emily's job so much easier, because that was a perfect segue to our next question. So like you were talking about before, like there are so many different paths that y'all can take personally. So basically, like, what led you to your path that you're on today? Like, what has been your professional journey? And you're more than welcome to expand on that.
Go ahead.
My path is, I think it's becoming more of the majority, where it's very non-linear. I did graduate from Appalachian State with a degree in communications and public relations and a minor in sociology, just because I loved the sociology department. And I'm like, I just want to take all the classes, might as well get a minor in it. And definitely did not get to where I was right after college. I was really burnt out after college, to be transparent. And I wanted to dabble in a couple more careers and get some life experience under my belt. So I did a couple things in loan processing. That's boring. I won't get into that. That lasted like 6 months. And then I worked at a camp as a digital media specialist and an outdoor educator. So basically I got to hang out in the mountains, probably like 30 minutes outside of Brevard, for I think like 8 months. And I got to teach classes about ecology and helping to solve like any communication barriers and how to resolve conflict and things like that. And then I got to take pictures of kids at camp and then create this beautiful slideshow. And that was really fun. Had nothing to do with my career per se, but I loved it. And then I taught English in Spain, because I'm like, if I don't do this now, I think I was close to my mid-20s, I'm never gonna be able to do it. That's not true, but I felt that pressure and I just said, you know what, let's do it. And then eventually, when I came back to North Carolina, I landed an internship opportunity with a digital marketing agency. And really from that point on until where I am now, it has created this, passion to work in the agency space, to work with brands, and to be able to be more of a generalist and touch things on digital marketing, touch things on brand, work with creatives. So I definitely am thankful for the life experiences that led me here. Did not envision that per se when I was in college, but I still ended up somewhere close to public relations in the I would say the sister or the sibling of public relations in marketing. And truly at R&M, like I've worked I worked at a few agencies here in the creative space, and I think R&M, because of just how honest we are with our mission and how collectively we agree and we align with our values, that has made such a tremendous difference, being in an agency space, because sometimes agencies have a reputation for churn and burn, reputation for a lot of turnover. And at R&M, I mean, people have been at this company for 15 years, 18 years, 7 years. I'm in the lower end. I'm coming up on 3. I'm like a little baby here, but it's still awesome to see such loyalty and happiness in an agency space.
Oh, thanks for sharing.
I'm right there with you on the nonlinear piece. I think it's different for everybody, but I love this question because it's a question I recommend everybody always ask when you meet somebody new, or if you're having lunch with somebody back in, we can get back together and have lunch with each other. Ask these questions. Ask the other person their story, because you'll be able to glean nuggets from it, because it's different for everybody and there's different inputs. So you can't necessarily find somebody's path and say that's my path. It has to be what's true for you. And your path might be very linear. It might be, I want to be a doctor. I'm going to be a surgeon. I'm going to be a brain surgeon. If it's on that path, do what you need to do to stay on that path. But otherwise, it's a period of discovery. Life is a period of discovery, from college and beyond. So, I graduated from Appalachian State with a business degree, the marketing focus, and then an outdoor recreation management minor. And I went to the outdoor rec world for a while. I did environmental ed, just like Melissa. I worked with camps. I got into sales. With a business degree, I was like, hey, let me try sales out. So I was in technology sales. I ended up working for a Fortune 500 company for 13 years. And that is a great experience. I took away from that, because that wasn't necessarily the company did great things, but I think with my core values and where I saw myself, it wasn't necessarily, I didn't necessarily intend to be in that world. I learned a great deal from it though. And that's one bit of advice I would give is, wherever you are, even if it's not the right place, you don't feel it's the right place, while you're looking for the next thing or looking to do the next thing, is learn everything you can while you're there. You'll be surprised at some things that you might learn about yourself or a new skill set. So went back to grad school, got my MBA, and decided to make a leap from a very comfortable corporate job with great benefits and pay to go work for a startup with very crappy pay and no benefits and, slight chance of a big payoff. But it was the best move I probably ever made. I learned a lot about myself and in business. And so then I've led a couple companies since then, and I've been a business coach, consultant. I had my own business for a little while, and I've taught business courses, and now I'm a business coach for the SBTDC, like I mentioned earlier. So I don't know what's next for me. Just stay open and learn everything you can where you are, but be looking ahead and be open to learning new things and having new experiences.
A couple of things I really like about what both of you said. Non-linear for sure. Both of you had experiences in outdoors, so I think that there's some sort of connection there to being connected to the environment and then wanting to do something that has bigger impact, and environmental sustainability, I'm sure, is a big piece. And then what you said, Matt, about learn everything, I think was super important, because I think there's many times when you're somewhere, you're at a job you didn't think you'd be at, and you're kind of like, what am I doing here? What's the value for me? And you don't always see what steps you'll be taking to get you to where you are. But at one point, it will all add up, and you'll say, all right, everything I did got me here. And it makes total sense now, and I have total clarity about all of it. So my path was non-linear as well. I would also add to that non-traditional. I left high school at 16 to go to college. I bought my diploma on the internet, and went to college at 16, graduated at 20, went right into nonprofit work. And I studied basically gender studies and sociology in college, and then went right into using that in nonprofits. I started working first with out-of-school youth and at-risk youth, and helping them gain and maintain employment, work on GEDs and other kind of skills training. From there, I moved out. This was in New England. I moved out to the West Coast and continued in nonprofits, working with still in the employment training and development realm, but working with folks who were chronically homeless, formerly incarcerated, and dual diagnosis. So they maybe had a mental health issue in addition to some of those other challenges. And then I transitioned to still the employment training and development, but with people living with HIV and AIDS, and helping them have access to full range of support services, as well as gaining and maintaining employment. That obviously, as a young early 20s year old, was really eye-opening, because they were bringing such life experiences to me that I had no understanding of, and I had to really try to understand their perspective and give what little knowledge I had of life, advice to helping these folks who've been through things that I could never imagine. And so that was just a really humbling experience. But there's a lot of burnout in nonprofit work. And so I got out of that and wanted to have more kind of control over my days and my time. And I worked in restaurants for a number of years. And I think that, I worked as a server, as a bartender, and a restaurant manager. And then I did a lot of traveling. I woofed on farms in South America. I was a farmer in upstate New York, and that's what actually led me to No Evil Foods, because I think one of the things that I was trying to do was solve a bigger problem with our food system, and realizing that I thought the answer was to kind of opt out and get on this dirt road in upstate New York and grow and make as many things as I could for myself. But what I really came to realize was that it wasn't about opting out, it was about really intentionally and consciously opting in. And so we created products that were cleaner and healthier, and then we decided to bring those to other people rather than just kind of creating this little bubble around us. We decided to bring it to the farmers market, and that's what ultimately kind of grew into No Evil Foods. So very non-traditional, very non-linear, but as I look back, that time in the restaurants showed me the connection of food. It showed me how to read a table, which is an amazing business skill that you have. When you walk up to a table, you never know what you're going to get. But being able to be flexible and respond and pivot really quickly in all sorts of business relationships, that's a really important skill. And so, like Matt said, you never know exactly why you're there, but even serving or bartending, there's huge value in those relationships and conversational skills that you can pick up.
I've always said everybody should work as a server or bartender, work front of the house and work back of the house, and understand how the differences of both, because you'd be a better consumer also.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it should be a rite of passage. And if you don't do restaurant, retail. I did not do retail. I was on the restaurant side of things, and it taught me a lot about talking to people, public speaking. I love that, reading the table, understanding, creating solutions on the fly, making mistakes, time management,
selling. Also as a vegetarian vegan, how do you sell a steak when it's something you would never eat? And that those salesmanship skills that you pick up like that, those will last you a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to align it to my values. So, I didn't want to sell steak anymore. So I got out of that work.
Yeah. We didn't even get to the career questions, and I'm already getting some good advice that I need to go work in the restaurant industry for a time. Thank you guys for sharing that.
Yeah, Sadrah, you kind of segued us into like the next question. Obviously, choosing a career in sustainability, I would assume you guys are very passionate about it. And I know this is kind of a loaded question, but just kind of briefly, why do you think that working for or owning a sustainable business is important to you?
I think Mike and I, my co-founder and life partner, we say it all the time that we didn't start No Evil Foods to sell something. We started No Evil Foods to do something. And I think one of the wonderful things about not only just being an entrepreneur is that you get to shape the world in the way that you would like to see it. So, I think there's enough stuff in the world already. We need businesses instead who can be visionaries, and businesses who are solving problems and who are doing things differently, and who are really committed to using commerce as a tool. And it was a way that we could put our values to work, that we could build community, that we could give back to our community, our chosen home here in the Asheville area, making decisions and having the power to make those decisions, like, offering living wage employment, or offering, gender neutral parental leave benefits, little things that might not even cross the mind of other people were really important to us to integrate into our business from the beginning, because we think that that's how you lay the foundation for long-term growth and success, is by doing things right from the start. And so, you know, there's so many other ways that we want to develop that, but I think sustainability is more than just talking about the planet, but it's talking about how are you thinking about your business as a whole. How are you making sure that you have a culture where you have low turnover rates, so you have historical kind of knowledge of your business, because that's going to help your businesses grow. And also, you know, it's not just about giving great benefits or giving high wages, but it's also financial savvy in terms of running your business, because if you don't have a financially solvent company, then that's not going to be sustainable for the environment. It's not going to help you drive your impact, basically. So if you're not having good financial management practices, that's not going to serve you. So it's kind of all interconnected. It's, you know, what we were talking about earlier, where it's like people and profits all together, and balancing those and not putting one in front of the other.
I'll add to that too. Beautifully said. I mentioned this earlier, but for me, working at R&M and working for a sustainable business is that collective unity and a vision that we know what we want to do, we know what we want to accomplish, and we collectively agree on that, and we move forward with it. We do so in the selection of our clients as well. So that balance between people and profit there is a true level of transparency that our executive team has with us, in that every couple of weeks we truly talk about our finances. For example, you know, COVID really flipped everyone upside down, and we were scared, we were nervous. We were a small business. We had 11 people on our team at that time, and we didn't know what Q4 or Q2, Q3 and Q4 was going to look like. And a lot of our clients had to pull back because they didn't know that as well. A lot of marketing budgets had to be taken away. And so for us, we had to really think about how we position ourselves when a pandemic hit. No one knew that was coming. But one way that we prepared for that, even though we didn't know we were preparing for that, is equaling out our pie, right? We try not to, at R&M, have one client take up more than 50% or more than 30% of our profit, because then if something happens, then all of a sudden, you know, we're hurting, and our business is hurting, but our people are hurting. And so there's just this, you know, this balance that we have to move forward with in terms of who do we want to work with? Is it a great partnership for both? Is it a great partnership on, you know, the profit front? Sure. And also a relationship. Is this type of work, is this type of client, or do they make our employees happy? Does it make our team like wake up and want to be passionate about what they do? Is it hurting them? Is it, you know, are we burning? And so I think that's part of it as well, is what's happening externally and how we are using business externally, but then also what is making us such a sustainable business internally, so that we have retention and we have people who come back and stay and are loyal and enjoy what they do. And that is priceless, to be able to go into work and actually feel like you're making a difference, feeling like you're getting paid fairly, and enjoying it, enjoying life, and the little moments of joy that you have during the workday, because that really takes up a lot of our time, right? And it's just been amplified with COVID. And so work has been probably on top of our minds more than we'd like. But if you're doing it for a company that you own or that you are a part of and you love it, it makes it better. Makes it definitely better.
Yeah, I agree 100%. To me, like, striving towards this as a goal in my life, I learned it was kind of when I was in that Fortune 500 company I worked for. You know, it was too big for me, and it wasn't impacting. I wasn't able to have the impact that I wanted to have. You know, I think at first it started with me and my career, and how can I make myself better? And you know, we're going through college, we're training ourselves, we're hearing all these skills we're supposed to have and all these things we're supposed to do to be better, get that job or do that thing that we want to do. But then I quickly realized it's also about how can I do better, you know, externally, not just do better for myself, but how can I do better for others? And that's always been an important goal for me in any business I've worked for or my own company. And, especially with the companies I'm working with and like the Waypoint Accelerator, even one of our sessions I developed is on a book called The Responsible Company. I know, Melissa, you mentioned responsibility, accountability a lot, and those are key words. But Yvonne Chenard and Vincent Stanley wrote this book about Patagonia's experience and their experience of being a responsible company and what that looks like. And we have a whole session on that. It's one of the my favorites that we go over because it's important for people to land on that. And leadership, what does leadership look like internally, externally from that point of view? So that's why it's been important to me. I think if it can be shown in the right light, most people believe that as well. And the part about profits is so true. You can be the most mission driven organization ever. You're solving all the world's problems, but if you can't keep the lights on, you can't fulfill your mission. So don't forget to focus on the finances.
Yeah, I definitely feel like finances kind of are a major thing that people kind of forget about. Like they have this huge image in their mind. I'm working on a program. I'm a rec management major and I'm doing program planning, and I have to work with a guy, and that's like he has this huge image and it's a great image, but I don't think he's thought about the financial aspect of it quite yet.
It's okay. A
yeah.
lot of early companies or startups, or particularly not to stereotype, but younger the younger population I work with, they have that same view, and it's great. It's the right view to have. But I think profit has been villainized. I think people, for profit's sake, doing things just for profit's sake is what villainizes it and gives profit a bad name. Profit can be good. Profit is the fuel, the engine that drives change for good. And I think, Sadrah, you were going to elaborate on that as well, so please.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's absolutely true. I would also add that I think that the visionaries who are out there, who are so driven and led by heart, are often of a different mindset than the people who are a little more financially savvy. And so I think understanding your drivers, and whether you're driven totally by altruism, or you're totally driven by some other driver to create change, it's important to balance that. Either keeping yourself in check and constantly pushing against your own sort of comfort level, or in my case, bringing in a co-founder who balances that out. So, we're both very led by mission, but also spreadsheets make my eyes cross. I've had to really, really cultivate looking at a spreadsheet, and it takes me probably 9 times as long to look at that and understand what the information is communicating to me in that layout, versus if it was something visual. If it was a deck that someone built, I'd get the information like that and it would stick in my head. So understanding your learning style, understanding but not losing that financial piece, just figuring out how to understand it in a way that works for you, I think is really important. And you can cultivate that skill, or you can bring in someone else who has it a little more naturally and learn from them and have them teach you, and be humble about it and say, listen, walk me through this. I don't get it. But Matt's totally right. If you can't keep the lights on, you're not serving your mission at all.
So we've kind of touched on this already, but especially with what you just said, but what career advice would you offer college students right now? Like, what tips and tricks have you learned along the way that have helped you get to where you are?
I would say, if you're looking at a career with impact, I would suggest to everyone to follow your passion. Don't follow a paycheck. The rest will work itself out. You'll find out where you belong. But like we talked about earlier, the path to your purpose isn't always linear, for sure. And your passion might not be serving beer to a bunch of drunk frat boys on a Saturday night, but that might provide you the 2 or 3 days off a week that you have to follow your purpose and develop it. Because that's what it did for us. I worked 2 or 3 days a week in the bar. I worked 4 days a week, in my farm. And that's kind of what led me in a sideways path to where I am. So follow your passion, open up those opportunities for yourself to live according to your values as much as possible, and the rest will sort of find its way out. And you're going to have all these external pressures from parents and, student loans and everyone else saying, you've got to get the job, you've got to get this big paycheck, you've got to make something of yourself and use your major. Try to make that voice as small as possible and listen to what's kind of driving you internally. And, when you live your values every day, what Melissa was saying about like being happy to come to work and not feeling like it's a drudge to get up, that's where you're really going to be able to change things.
I would add to that, just, continually surround yourself with folks who are both dreamers and doers. So that was the balance that I think both of you all mentioned earlier of, people who love spreadsheets. I'm one of those people, and people who don't. And, surround yourself, because it's contagious. It's contagious, go beyond the people in your, let's say, in your department, and create friendships and create community with creatives, storytellers, folks who are more analytical thinkers, folks who are entrepreneurs and are in the business department, folks who are fine artists. And because it really will just open your mind and open your world up to see things that you might typically not have seen when you're with like-minded folks. And so I didn't do enough of that in college, and I wish that I had done so in college. And I try to do that in my adult life now, to work with people who are outside of my agency or outside of my mini community, and to get to understand like what is out there, what is happening in the world, what do people do, and what does it mean to be friends with nurses, be friends with farmers, be friends with everyone. And exactly, your career does not have to be linear. It's all good. You can change jobs. You can change course at any point that you want. Stretch, stretch your mind, stretch what a career means to you. Go out, go do, explore if that's what you want. If you are like, no, I know my vision, I know my passion, I know exactly what I want to do, that's awesome too. So it really is just understanding what you want and spending time to explore that, and not feeling pressured to have a job, but having a job that you like and a job that you love at the same time. And also, you are not defined by your title. You are not defined by your salary. That's been a hard pill for me to learn and swallow in my 20s, that what I do at work is not all me. There are other parts and pieces of my life that make up Melissa, and I shouldn't be bound or defined by that. So when people ask me what I do, this is a reminder for myself. I need to also talk about my job, but also talk about my passions and my hobbies and the things that I find interesting outside of my awesome role, because that is also what makes up me. And so I think spending time outside of work to have and build a personal life is also important, because it all is interwoven into each other, and you don't want to tip the scales too much on one. You can't, the best advice I ever got was from my dad, and he said, you can have it all, just not at once. So I've been led by that with my career and my personal life too, just understanding and pulling apart what that actually means for my job. So yeah, that would be some advice that I would give.
That's good. That's great. Those are both, I'm making notes. Your life is, you're always learning. Don't forget to learn, and it's never ending. Oh, so that's my first bit of advice, I guess. But I think, to add on what you both said, be patient. Don't be in a hurry. Sadrah mentioned, make those voices in your head that you're hearing, of get out there, get the job, pay your student loans, all those things you feel pressure to do by society maybe, or pressure you're putting on yourself. Try to make that voice as small as possible. Like she said, that's great advice. I read a book right when I was getting ready to graduate from App State called Playing to Win. And there was just one section in there where they talked about a study of people who, there were more people in the study who feared public speaking than dying, which is crazy when you think about it, right? It's really kind of irrational, but we're all irrational people. But the point they made was, don't be afraid to try new things. What's the worst going to happen? You're not going to die. I mean, unless you're jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. Don't try that, but try new things. You're not going to die. there's also a saying, don't believe everything you think, or what other people think of you is none of your business. Those are all good things to remember, and just be yourself and be true to yourself. Surround yourself with mentors and friends who have your best interest in mind, and be there for them in the same spirit, and be around people who will tell you the truth. And share your knowledge, collaborate. And this collaboration and sharing of knowledge is how we're going to both improve as ourselves and the people around us, as a society. Share the knowledge. If you know something that can help somebody, or you learn something, share it. That's how we all get better.
Yeah, most definitely. Y'all just knocked that answer out of the park. Give yourselves a pat on the back, because that was such a good answer, like all of them. And yeah, I agree, Matt. I'm definitely taking notes as well, and get some good knowledge going on here.
Yeah, I was about to say those were great answers. So we do have one final question. This is kind of along the same lines of career advice, but specifically if somebody wanted to pursue opportunities either within your specific organization or just generally within sustainability or similar career paths to what you all hold, what career advice would you offer them? Like, what's one piece of advice that you would give?
I would say, you're not expected to know everything right away. So that should alleviate some pressure as you look into jobs or as you look into internships. And just knowing that you don't need to know it, and that's okay. That you're there, especially with an internship position, and as a job entry level position, you don't need to know everything. Ask questions, ask for examples, be inquisitive, be curious. Curiosity is a representation that you care about the work that you're doing and you have a genuine interest in it. So at R&M, we are hiring internships, or we're finalizing the parts and pieces of our internship program, but we're looking to open up that application process soon, and then looking for marketing interns. And this is the second year. We piloted that program last year. And for folks who are interested in that internship program, like I mentioned, keep digging, ask why. We never, and I can speak for me and my team, we are never annoyed when someone asks why, because it makes us pause. It makes us think of like, that's a great question. Let me think before I do, and versus just doing for the sake of doing and checking the box. Other things I would mention too, is that your work ethic at this point in your career, your work ethic is going to shine brighter than your talent and experience. It's okay that you don't have experience. I think your life experience is just as important, if not more important, at this point in your career to share with us. If you took off a year of college, cool. What did you do? What did you learn? Where'd you go? If you worked in a restaurant, tell us what you learned about being in the restaurant business, and that trajected you to where you are now and what you want to do with your life. Other advice, I would say, just learn, grow, and also adapt. Have an ability to learn and absorb, but also to teach across, so to teach to your colleagues and also to teach up. And at R&M, I have this unique position where, because we're a small, nimble team, I get to work with the CEO and president almost every day. I think I actually talk to Bev, who is our CEO, and work with her more times during the week than I do of other branch strategists, and use that as an opportunity. So teach up, teach across, and teach down. I can't think of another way to frame that more beautifully.
Yeah, I think everything that Melissa said is great. To add, be curious, learn from the things that you do, try new things, but be able to have a way to process and look back and reflect. I am a strong believer in journaling, even a minute a day, just writing a thought down of your experience that day, or however it works for you. It gives you an opportunity to be able to look back on something and process all the things that you've done and learned, and what you've taken from those experiences. Be a leader. in everything you do. Just because you're not the boss doesn't mean you're not a leader. Leadership is a very broad topic, but it's an important concept to understand that you are a leader in everything you do. And in my field of I'm in the business world, business coaching. I got here because I've tried so many different things, so I have a broader experience to be able to share with folks that I work with. But I'm learning just as much from them in the clients and companies I work with than they are from me. So it's again shared learning, like Melissa mentioned. So share, teach, and adapt.
They're great. Specific to being an entrepreneur, or I guess building a purpose-driven company, either as a leader or an entrepreneur, I think it's really important to develop grit and determination, and a certain level of like cultivating comfort with being an outsider until you find a community that's going to like energize and support your vision. It can be a really lonely path. Even once you've found it, you're kind of challenging the way that things have always been done, and that doesn't always win you a lot of friends. You get a lot of no's. People say, you make a lot of sacrifices to be very, very kind of driven towards a single goal. And I think it's important to kind of be comfortable with that. So like, this is important to me, and I am like, I'm going for it. And I think it's important to understand the rules just enough to know which ones you can break. I think that's something that took me a little while. I just kind of said, screw all the rules. I'm just going to do it my way. But there is an art to understanding just which boundaries you can push and how far you can push them to still have impact, and then keep kind of nudging those boundaries further and further. And then, just rise above the pressure to do things how they've always been done. There's always more than one way to approach something, to solve a problem, to handle a situation. And you might not always do it the right way the first time or the best way the first time, but learn and reflect and then try to do it better the next time.
Yeah.
You can always be better than the way you were, how you were the day before.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was our last question. So we're done. Yay. But this was awesome. It was definitely very informative to me. I'm sure Emily feels the same way. And I know people that listen to this later will definitely feel the same and would enjoy listening to this, because I definitely did. So thank you very, very much for your time and for hopping on and talking to us.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing to meet you both. To meet all of you. I look forward to following up and staying in touch and connecting. And I wish you all a beautiful week. Hopefully, we get some sunshine in both the mountains and the city. Forget, I'm the only one not in the mountains.
Yeah,
it's coming. Yeah, sun shines ahead. Always.
Yes, brighter days. Always. Yep, always on the horizon.
Most definitely. Yes. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thanks, awesome. Emily. Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you all.